If you haven't picked it yet, this entire month is going to be dedicated to, well, trains. In every sense of the word, choo-choos. Lots and lots of choo-choos, specifically steam choo-choos. And this is going to be called Traintober. There are going to be 4 5-minute or so videos about trains and 2 larger videos, the first one being the AA-20 and the second one will be the Soviet Zombie Train Post-Apocalyptic Network video. That'll come out later on in the month. This episode, the one about the Soviet hybrid steam diesel locomotive, has been chosen by a patron. The 5-minute videos, with the exception of the last one, will all have been chosen by patrons as part of my 5-minute history series. These are effectively ones that people have submitted via the spreadsheet, and because it's a train-themed month, I've just picked all the train ones off. Without further ado, let's continue. During that strange limbo known today as the interwar years, Soviet railway engineers kept a watchful eye on experimental locomotives being developed across Europe. Among the more intriguing concepts were hybrid steam internal combustion systems that included strange machines like the Italian Ansaldo 462 of 1926 and Britain's Kitson Steel locomotive of 1928. These designs sought to merge the high power of steam with the efficiency of diesel, trying to be a sort of best of both worlds kind of design. The Soviets, now under Stalin, wanted to be at the forefront of this kind of innovative designing and took this idea to a new and radical level under the name of Teplo-Parovoz, literally diesel steam locomotive. The first of these Soviet hybrids was locomotive number 8000, a massive 282 freight engine completed in September 1939 at the Voroshilovgrad works. It was proudly named Stalinets, or follower of Stalin. Beneath its patriotic name was a mechanical experiment of remarkable complexity that was so convoluted that it would have made a machine spirit confused. The core of the 8000's design was an opposed piston cylinder where each cylinder contained 2 pistons moving toward and away from each other. The outer sides of the pistons were driven by steam, while the inner space between them acted as a diesel combustion chamber. Below 20 km an hour, this locomotive would operate on steam power alone. Above that speed, though, the diesel combustion kicked in, with steam still powering the outward stroke of the pistons. Sort of a similar concept to a hybrid car, but just worse for your lungs in every way. The train was designed to produce 3,000 horsepower and reach speeds of up to 130 km an hour, with its first trial run taking place on the 18th of October 1939, followed by further testing in November on the North Donetsk Southern Railways. Despite its ambition, 8000 faced numerous issues. Its 25-ton axle was too much for Soviet tracks, not too dissimilar from the AA-20, just on a far lesser scale. The cylinders were prone to cracking, and ride quality was pretty poor. After World War II, it was brought out for renewed trials in 1946, but by 1948, it was quietly put back into storage and forgotten about. But it was the start of a trio, and there aren't too many photos of any of these, so I do apologise for the lack of imagery. Now, the TP-11. If the 8000 was ambitious, the TP-11 was something else entirely, and this was the Soviet Union's only steam-gas hybrid locomotive. Design work began on the 8th of July 1939 at the Koloma Works. The TP-11 had a 2-10-2 wheel arrangement. What sets this one apart, though, from the others is this absolutely cursed-looking forward cab design, putting the driver at the very front in a way that just looks unnatural. Its power source was an elaborate combination of a pulverized anthracite gasifier and a conventional boiler. Gas from the coal drove 8 internal pistons in opposed piston pairs, while leftover coal dust was fed into the boiler to raise steam. A condenser system in the smoke box added yet more complexity, requiring a turbine-driven fan to maintain the draft. The design targeted power of around 3,000 to 3,500 horsepower, with 2,000 of that coming from the gas combustion and the rest from steam. The mechanism included 8 pistons, 8 crossheads and jackstaffs with rocking levers at both ends. Steam was managed using a Marshall valve gear, while the gas cycle functioned as a 2-stroke fed by gas and air turbo blower. The gas generator worked well, but it could just not be sustained for any long periods of time. The TP-11 made its first run on December 26, 1939, departing from Golbatin Station near Kolmona towards Ryazan, and it later underwent testing on the Shubinka test track near Moscow, where it ran 76 trips totaling nearly 1,800 kilometers. It really was not a success though. The engines functioned tolerably only at low speeds at around 25 to 30 kilometers an hour. At higher speeds at around 40 to 45, the gas cycle failed with premature ignition of the gas-air mix at the cylinders, causing a series of extremely unadvised combustions. By early 1941, engineers had modified the pistons to reduce compression and eliminated this issue, well, they think they did, but before they could test that, the Germans decided to invade the country and this cursed choo-choo was forgotten. Sadly, not many pictures exist, but this one too was called Stalinets, as you can see on the cab. And the sheer sight of it alone hurts my brain. I mean, yeah. The last gasp of the Teplopharov's train design dream came in the form of 8001 in 1948, with the completion of this new 210-2 steam diesel hybrid, and it was a complete failure. Design work had originally begun back in 1940, but this was halted during the war. Post-war enthusiasm briefly revived the project, and it was finished at the Voloshilovgrad Works in 1948. 8001 employed a complex system similar to TP11's, featuring 8 cylinders, 8 crossheads, and 4 additional rocking levers, and this was a mechanical nightmare from a maintenance standpoint. The cylinder assemblies were lowered to wheel level in an effort to improve stability, but the sheer mechanical burden just simply proved too much. One contemporary source described it bluntly as an almost complete disaster. No performance data survives, and it was the last Soviet attempt at combining steam and diesel into a single locomotive, and sadly, well, not many images survive either. Behind these technical marvels and misadventures lies a pretty dark side to the Soviet rail history as well, because in March 1937 an accident occurred on the Siberian rail network. The exact details remain unclear, but what is known is that 72 railway officials were executed after being found responsible. Now that may not be directly linked to these abominations, but just keep in mind the cost of what would happen to you if you really screwed the pooch on designing new trains. Wasn't a pretty outcome. As railway historian Peter Semmens dryly remarked, one's mind boggles at trying to understand the circumstances whereby the number of individuals could have actually had a hand in causing an accident. None of these Soviet hybrid locomotives ever entered mass production, probably for the best. They were too complex, too heavy, too unreliable, and they arrived in a time of wars too, so that killed any chance to fix it. But they do remain fascinating inventions even if they didn't work, and interesting to look at, to say the least. Thank you for joining me for this short one. I'll be back next week with another episode of Traintober. This time, we'll be talking about the Garretts.